Okay, looks like it's working for everybody. This is Kaitlin Sopoci-Belknap. I'm the National Director of Move to Amend, and I'm going to do the webinar tonight. Thanks to all of you for being here, and this will be recorded, and the slides and the recording will be made available on the Move to Amend website tomorrow. So let's get started here. If you're having any trouble hearing, you might want to try using the call number, which is there on your screen. If you have technical difficulties, I apologize that I can't do tech support and run the meeting. So you can contact Any Meeting, which is the service we use. And again, there will be a recording and the slides will be available. So apologies if you're having trouble, but there's a way to catch us tomorrow and any time that's convenient for you. So our agenda tonight is I'm going to give you a quick overview of Move to Amend. I see that we have several of our affiliate volunteers on the line, but lots of new people too. So be a refresher for some, but just make sure everyone's clear. And then talk about our projects for 2015 and some of our ongoing volunteer opportunities, and then offer an opportunity for questions, and then talk about next steps. So our mission, Move to Amend, we are committed to social and economic justice, ending corporate rule, and building a vibrant democracy that's genuinely accountable to the people, not corporate interests. And our goals are to pass the We the People Amendment that makes clear that artificial entities like corporations or nonprofits or unions or any other entity that's made by government does not have constitutional rights, and money is not speech, and therefore spending in campaigns can be regulated or banned. And we also have the goal of provoking discussion and organizing around how to make the promise of American democracy real through constitutional renewal. Oh, I should have said also at the beginning, if you have questions at any point, you can chat them on the side. We'll have a time designated for questions, but if it's helpful to you to chat them as we go, feel free. I'll come back to them all at the end. Our principles and values are anti-oppression and solidarity organizing, particularly with communities that are most impacted by the effects of corporate rule, because we strongly believe that that is necessary towards building the world that we want that actually will work for everyone. Coalition and movement building. Only through movements can something as monumental as amending the U.S. Constitution be done. Every time that it's been amended before, that's really what it's taken, and so that's what we're seeking to do here as well. We really believe in grassroots organizing through personal relationships is really the only way to build the kind of power and capacity that is needed to build this kind of movement. And so we emphasize grassroots organizing in our actions and in the way our organization is structured. We have a dedication to political education and understanding the past and learning lessons from that past, and both what has worked before and what hasn't worked, so that we can move forward with intentionality. And political and economic independence, meaning that we can't do this if we're beholden to large corporations for funding or the wealthy for funding or the status quo, whether it's political parties or power holders who are committed to the current system. We need to have independence on both of these fronts if we're going to be successful. A little refresher, hopefully. This sounds familiar. There's two ways to amend the Constitution under the Constitution. 2/3 of both houses of Congress can pass an amendment resolution, and then it goes to 3/4 of the states to ratify it, or there is a provision in the Constitution for 2/3 of state legislatures to call for a convention to propose amendments, and then 3/4 of the states still have to ratify. So, in short, no matter what, this is going to be a big undertaking that's not, maybe won't include Congress very much at all, but either way, the states are key actors and this needs to be widespread all over the country. And this is what we mean in that it's going to take a movement. This isn't something that's going to just come from a couple leaders in Washington, D.C., or even a particular political party or organization. It's got to be from diverse sectors of the whole country, and it's going to take time, although we need to move as quickly as possible. So our strategy has been to focus on building a grassroots democracy movement because that's what we think is needed to get this done. We emphasize coalition building because, again, it's not going to be any one organization. Move to Amend itself is a coalition, but we need to even be broader beyond ourselves. Our movement needs to be diverse, it needs to be multiracial, it needs to be intergenerational. If you look at past movements that have been successful at achieving as significant reforms as we're looking for, that's what it takes. And so we have to be able to organize with people who, we don't already know. Community organizing is going to be key, not just activism, and by that we're kind of trying to draw the distinction, especially in this day and age where a lot of action gets fueled towards or pushed towards, internet petitions and maybe call your congressperson. And those are important components. Move to Amend has a petition and was started with a petition, and that's part of how we bring people in. But it really needs to be about building power, and that's what we see organizing is about. And we need to build the power and capacity to amend the Constitution and to have a movement that is going to, hold Congress's feet to the fire, hold our elected officials' feet to the fire, ultimately elect our own people to office on this platform. And so all of that is about building power and capacity. It's not just showing up for a rally or, forwarding a message to 5 friends. It's really about building relationships and power. We focus on local organizing because that's where we actually can have real personal relationships with people. And even though the internet is an incredibly powerful tool that we have to use, at the end of the day, really personal relationships and local organizing through the channels that we still have some ability to influence local government, which then goes on and can provide pressure for state and federal government. And so all of that puts an emphasis on local and grassroots. And our primary target is the American people. And that's as opposed to, say, Congress or even state legislators. In the last couple of years, we have had our amendment introduced in Congress, and it will be introduced again in the new Congress. We have started to build relationships with state legislators. So, we're evolving in that realm. But really our primary target is the public because that's who we need to reach. That's who's really going to be necessary to recognize our collective power and to make this happen. This doesn't mean we need everybody in America, but we do need to get to where there's a tipping point of people who understand this issue, who are passionate about it, and who are engaged in our fight. And so that's where we focus. And as I go through the projects that we're working on this year, you'll see a theme that for the most part we're targeting the public through education and organizing. So an ongoing effort that we have been involved in from the start of Move to Amend on the day of the Citizens United decision when we went public as a campaign has been resolutions. These are declarations of support for the amendment and a call on state and federal lawmakers to support and move forward the amendment. So hundreds of communities have passed these resolutions. A number of them have been done through ballot initiatives, and then citizens collect signatures to put it on the ballot and put it before the voters. That is our preferred strategy because that both reaches more people and involves the public more, but also builds our capacity as an organization to run that kind of campaign is even more involved than lobbying your local elected officials. But in some places, you cannot do a ballot initiative, and sometimes you have to work up to that capacity, even if that's legally available to you. So regardless of how it's done, the emphasis is on public education, not just getting a couple friends on your city council to get together and have a meeting and put it on the regular agenda and just wham, bam, get it passed. But rather, this is kind of a platform, an opportunity to engage the larger community, to get new volunteers involved, to engage the media, and make this, your goal is to make it a community discussion. Should corporations have constitutional rights? Should money equal speech? What do we think as a community? And turn the community out to offer that direction to your elected officials. If you can't, just put it on the ballot directly. So while there are hundreds of places that have done this, there are still thousands more out there that haven't, and this is still a key campaign. And in states where there's a critical mass of ballot initiatives and resolutions that have passed at the local level, then we want that momentum and energy to move towards passing state ballot initiatives. And I want to give a shout out to Washington State, which is planning a citizens initiative campaign again to put it on their state ballot. And they'll be kind of publicly launching that this year soon. And Oregon is also in the process of working on that as well. So want to give a shout out to both of those places. If you live in those states and are not currently involved, you have a very exciting opportunity. And do make sure to follow up with the local Move to Amend group that's closest to you, because they will plug you into those important campaigns. We also are going to continue, at least at a low level for now, our campaign Pledge to Resist. So this is the purpose of this is to see how many people we can collect who are willing to, if necessary, engage in civil disobedience, which is a tactic that we have not used really as Move to Amend so far, but we are confident will be necessary and needs to be a tool in the toolbox that we pull out at the appropriate time. It's our belief that direct action works best if people who are not already involved feel as though they can see that you've tried other channels and that you are kind of upping the ante in a way that makes sense because those other channels you've been thwarted through trying them. And, you know, we could definitely say that we're at that point in terms of democracy functioning and being able to move forward any semblance of the people ruling this country. But you also want to have a good target, and you want to do a campaign like this appropriately. So for now, what we're asking people to do is, if you can imagine yourself in the context of an organized way that's peaceful and dignified and within the bounds of the spirit of what, the best practitioners of civil disobedience that have come before us, in that context, if you can imagine yourself performing civil disobedience for this issue, then for now, if you could take the pledge, and over the course of this year, we're going to continue to have places where those folks and our local volunteers who are involved with our affiliates can engage with the idea of civil disobedience as Move to Amend and work together to figure out how to do this in a way that best capitalizes on the tactic. We are also continuing our Pledge to Amend campaign. Last year, we focused on candidates who were running for office and asked them to pledge, if they were elected, to support Move to Amend and to use their office to further the amendment, whether they were running at the local, state, or federal level. And this year is not an election year, and so we'll be focusing more on office holders. There are some places where there are some elections, but for the most part, we'll be focusing on people who are already in office and asking them to take the pledge. We are intentionally focusing on all levels, not just people in Congress or people in our state legislatures. It's important not to forget our municipal elected officials because, as I said, this is going to take a bit of time. We have to have, a game plan that sustains us over years. And the people who are on city councils right now and county board of supervisors and commissions are the most likely people who will be state legislators in 2 years or 3 years or more, and likewise, moving up into Congress. And so we need to plan early for people who are newly elected to office, and help them understand this issue. So a lot of it is education. Even if our elected officials understand Citizens United, it's quite possible they don't understand corporate constitutional rights and the full extent of the context that Citizens United came out of. And also there's a lot of people who are in elected office, even at the state and federal level, who really don't actually understand money and politics, even though that's something that they deal with directly every day. So helping them to see that the solution is an amendment. It's not going to work to just try for legislation, and doing that work to build relationships with them. And that also deepens our own skills as an organization, as organizers in citizen lobbying, which is really key. So it provides a way to also pressure lawmakers who are kind of on the sidelines if their colleagues are signing the pledge and coming on. It provides a mechanism for us to go to them and say, where are you on this? And makes it harder for them to stand aside when they're running for office. So we will be updating our website really soon with the 2015 materials for how to do all that lobbying, and how people can sign up to take the pledge if they're elected officials, or if you get elected officials to take the pledge, how you can put them on the site, and we'll have that list, and it'll be public and available. And right now, if you go to the Pledge to Amend page, you'll see the information from last year to give you a sense of what we did last year and what it will look like more or less in 2016 when we kind of flip back to a campaign that's mostly focused on political campaigns, because it'll be another big election year. We're doing this project has kind of evolved a bit, and it's still evolving. Although the webinar that we'll be doing in February, just really soon around the corner here, will be focusing on this topic. So May 10th is the anniversary, for lack of a better word, of the Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad case, which was actually kind of is looked at as the case that launched this idea that corporations have constitutional rights. So it certainly started, obviously, well before Citizens United. This was in 1886. And as Move to Amend, has always been about going to the root causes of Citizens United and addressing those, not just overturning Citizens United. We want to use this opportunity, and we've done actions on this anniversary before. We want to use this opportunity again to really broaden this discussion to go to, beyond Citizens United. So what we're looking at is, rather than May 10th is Mother's Day, and it's not necessarily the best day to do action, so we're looking actually at stuff that could happen anytime in May. And the theme is Happy Birthday to the Oldest Person in the World. And I don't have all the details now, and there's a lot of creativity that folks can employ on your own in terms of how you want to take that and run with it. But the webinar on February 3rd will give you more guidance and ideas for how you might be able to do something like this in your community to draw attention to corporate personhood and where it comes from. Move to Amend will be participating in a big way in the U.S. Social Forum process, which is taking place this summer, in 3 locations. Oops, excuse me, I hit that wrong button. The Social Forum is a convening of all different social movements from across the country. It's actually an international event, and has been going on for a number of years now, coming out of the global justice movement and the global South. And there have been 2 other times where the social forum has been held in the United States. This will be the 3rd. And this year they're doing it in 3 locations at the same time. So we'll be in all 3, and our role is that we will be holding people's movement assemblies to imagine how to codify our movement demands constitutionally. And what we mean by that is if we were to win and get what we really need on any issue, let's just take homelessness and housing. If we were to say that this issue was solved, what would that look like, and how would we make it the law that the issue stay solved? And so it's an opportunity to think big, to think kind of outside the box, and to kind of imagine U.S. Constitution 2.0. It's not that we would, get rid of anything that we've got that's working, but how could we go deeper to really make sure that our Constitution is a place that where people's rights are really protected in a proactive way. So not just against government, but that we actually have our needs met. And we'll be building on a couple other people's movement assemblies that we did last year and at the beginning of this year, and using a process that we found worked really well, that folks were very engaged in. And we'll be holding people's movement assemblies at each one of these events. And then there will also be an opportunity for Move to Amend folks to come together with numerous other movements and activists and connect and learn. These events have had, tens of thousands of people when they were held in years past. So this will be a big opportunity to engage with a lot of people who are like-minded and who who we could really benefit if they were infusing the call for ending corporate personhood and money is speech in the work that they're doing against corporate power. We'll also be holding our own conference. We'll be holding 2 of our own conferences. The audience will be our grassroots leaders, so it's kind of an internal conference. And there'll be training and skills building, strategy discussion, and networking. So one of them will be in Washington, D.C. in the fall, and another location that is yet to be determined but will be soon in August. That'll be in the western part of the United States. So more details on that will be coming soon for those of you who are Move to Amend grassroots leaders. And then some of the ongoing efforts that anybody can engage with at any time, whether or not you are part of a local Move to Amend group, and could even do on your own, are house parties for democracy. There's a page on our site with all kinds of details about how you can hold a house party. We encourage you to use our Legalized Democracy 30-minute DVD that's like an introduction to Move to Amend. You can invite your friends and neighbors. If you would like our help in inviting other petition signers from Move to Amend who live in your area that you might not know yet, we can also offer an invitation to them for you. And if you want to have a National Move to Amend organizer, staff member, or board member do like a Skype conversation with you, that's something that we've done before and has worked. So, or you can just do it yourself. And it's a place where you can collect donations for Move to Amend, or just collect supporters and pass the petition and get people educated and aware of Move to Amend. Or folks have used this strategy to start new Move to Amend groups. If there's not an affiliate in your area, holding an event like this is a great way to find out who else is interested and get a critical mass together to start a new group. Stampede to Amend is a project that we've been doing for a number of years now. We sell stamps, like rubber stamps, that have messages. The main one that we use is "The corporation is not a person, money is not speech," movetoamend.org. But also there's one that says not to be used for bribing politicians. And we encourage you to stamp your cash money with those envelopes. We also stamp every piece of outgoing mail that leaves our office as well, just to put the message out there widely, and who knows whose hands it will fall into. But we have had a number of people tell us that they found Move to Amend because they happened to grab a dollar bill that had one of our messages on it. In fact, one of our interns is with us because her husband brought home a $20 bill with a Move to Amend stamp on it. So this is a way to just help get the word out. And if you want to make it exponentially more grand, you can get some stamps and then bring your friends in. And if a house party isn't your cup of tea, perhaps instead doing a stamp-in where you everybody gets $100 or $50 or $20 in cash out of the bank and brings their cash, and then they use your stamps to stamp it and learn, and watch the DVD that way or something like that. So encourage you. This is like a really low commitment, easy way to help Move to Amend. And we, like I said at the beginning, have an ongoing effort to collect signatures for Move to Amend's motion to amend, or our online petition, which you can also print out and take to people and when you're meeting with them in person. And again, this is an easy way. You don't have to be connected to any group to do this. Just bring the petition to work with you or forward it to people that you know through Facebook or email. Our goal is to get to 500,000, and then when we get to 500,000, our goal will be to get to 1 million. But these people, everybody who is on our list is there because they signed the Move to Amend petition. So you all probably signed the petition, and that's how you were introduced to this work. And so it's important that we continue to grow, and this is the main tool that we use to do it, and we invite you and ask you to help us out by participating and sharing the petition and asking everyone you know to sign it. And if you want to go a step beyond asking people you know, you can print it out and actually, go out with a clipboard to your farmers markets this spring or to festivals or community events if you have art walks in your town. And stand in front of the grocery store and ask people if they think that we should amend the Constitution to make clear that corporations don't have the same rights as people and money is not speech. And then the last thing, this is an ongoing opportunity as well, extend an invitation. If there's a particular skill set that you have or area of expertise, it isn't everyone's cup of tea to run a local group, even though that's really where we emphasize that people should get involved. And there's also, a whole host of things that you can do with a local group to help them out. But we also have national committees. We have 5 national committees, and law and research, fundraising, outreach and education, political movement and political organizing and grassroots movement. And the list of all those and kind of what their scope is and who's on them and when they meet is all on that on that page listed there on the screen. And there's an application process if you would be interested in serving. It's a pretty significant time commitment. We ask for, folks who are really committed, and there's a limited number of positions, but want to put it out there to, if you're not sure how to plug in, that might be something to look at and consider applying to serve on one of our national committees. So, again, that's just a broad, quick overview of what we've got going on in 2015 and some general stuff that we've got going on always, and want to open it now up to anybody who might have any questions. If you do have any questions, you can type them on the left side of your screen where it says Send to Presenters right underneath there, and I'd be happy to do my best at answering them. And I've got one here. Gus asks, how do we deal with unions that don't support the amendment, and what And what can we expect with respect to specific responses to educating others? And what do we say to respond? Okay, so taking kind of the second question first around what can we expect when educating others, for the most part, if you're like, say, passing the petition, and most of the time, most folks don't have too terribly detailed questions for you. And you can actually get most people on board with saying, you know, this is a campaign to amend the Constitution to make clear that corporations don't have constitutional rights. If you want to make it more explicit that it's corporations, unions, and nonprofits, that's okay too. Lots of times we shorthand it to corporations. But depending on your audience, it might make sense to include all three. And that money isn't speech, and so that we can get big money into politics. And, you know, most people like that idea. In fact, 80% of people polled in this poll, the same kind of questions have been done a couple times by a couple different organizations, and the results are the same, that 80% agree. So chances are that most folks are going to say, yeah, and just sign. If you're interested in, if you're targeting like particular groups of folks, like unions, there might be some more specific questions. And in terms of unions that don't support the amendment, to get to your first question, Gus, you know, not everybody is going to. Sometimes it's a process. So there are, you know, originally most unions, like the AFL-CIO, for example, actually supported the decision in Citizens United and felt as though it was going to somehow be good for them because they were specifically mentioned as, you know, that the limits that they've had were expanded as well. But over time, they've actually realized that they can't compete with corporate treasuries, and so Citizens United really hasn't helped them. And I would say that there are still kind of establishment union folks who think that the system as it is just sort of how it has to be, and they have to kind of play that game. But increasingly, people are realizing how this isn't working. So kind of the same as Move to Amend's strategy to focus on the local level and grassroots public, I would say that the best way to build support from unions is to start with rank and file folks and maybe central labor councils or locals, and then to build up from there. And that's where we've had the best success. We're actually finishing up a kind of top 10 reasons why unions should support the Move to Amend and We the People Amendment. That'll be out soon. That should be helpful. And there's also some general talking points. If you go to the Learn More tab in the Move to Amend website, there are talking points there that can help with some of the kind of other responses that we frequently get, and also the frequently asked questions on the website too. So let's see. Sorry that I got a little distracted there. I had to clean up a mess that my cat created. So I see there's several other questions here, so let's keep going. David from Kansas says, how do the states call for a constitutional convention? Does it have to be the state legislators, or can it be statewide ballot initiative? The Supreme Court has ruled that it needs to be legislators. However, I would say that just like kind of everything, that's sort of a political question. So we are definitely playing with how far we can kind of push that, and Oregon is looking at language that would be more than just a call for an amendment, a resolution that's non-binding, but is there a way to put in the convention piece into the ballot initiative? It somewhat varies on states and whether there has been court cases from times before where folks have tried to call for an amendment through ballot initiatives. So it's that's kind of a complicated legal question actually, and it sort of depends on your state. And then at the same time, with any Supreme Court interpretation, there's an element of, what is the political capacity that you have to push back? And sort of the strategy of kind of a crisis of jurisdiction where, say, the federal government through the Supreme Court says you cannot do something through a court case, but then you kind of do it anyway, and then, what gets followed. So I can imagine a situation where a state passes a call for convention through the ballot initiative process, and then you're able to use that to hold your state legislators accountable and, basically make them act on that initiative because that's what their voters said. Whether or not you legally can do that, it's always kind of a political question too. So we are really only having that kind of conversation at the moment in states where we have enough capacity to think in that way, and that's part of why the first steps are building local power and capacity through our affiliates and then up to the state level. Because if you're going to try and really maximize those tactics, you have to have the people power to back them up. So to answer that, Marty asks, if Warren Buffett offered $10 million, would you say no? Well, that would be up to our board. And I think it would really depend on what else that entails. So I don't know, actually, is the answer. I mean, at the moment, we are funded through small individual donations. The average donation to Move to Amend is $50 about. It varies year to year between like 40 and 70, so let's say 50 on average. And we have 8,000 donors, and we have a tiny budget compared to a lot of other organizations that are not doing as much as Move to Amend. So, could we use that money? Yes, but if it would come with any strings, then absolutely not. And I would be surprised if anybody in Warren Buffett's league offered us $10 million to do this campaign. And we've got to build the capacity and infrastructure to do it, not leaning on wealthy donors or establishment politics, because what we're doing is completely changing the status quo, and that's what needs to be done. So we're going to move forward kind of with the understanding that